Hey everybody, on here, and I'm coming to you with this month's video. I'm sure the light is going to fade in and out a bit here on me because of where I'm sitting today. It's a great spot because I have this beautiful scenery behind me and I love that. But sometimes the light can get a little funky depending on where the camera's picking up. So I've got some really big stuff I want to tap into this month for our video, for our insights. And before I do that, I just want to remind everybody that I'm really excited to share that I'm basically through the publishing process for the 2021 book. A little warning, it's going to be a little higher price than before, and that has a lot to do with the printing costs have gone up on things. It is a big book, and that does increase the printing cost on it. And also, I have decided to submit to be available, to have the book available on a wholesale level. And so I'm moving into some other forums, and that also has created a price increase this year. And this is important because even though I don't make a lot off the book, people think, well, when you write a book, you make a whole lot of money. And I just want to explain some of this so that people understand when they go to get the book this year. And, you know, so you have basically off of the, you know, the book right off the top, you have about 55% that comes right off the top that goes to the retailer, that goes to the distributor, that goes to, you know, all of these different channels in there. And then you have your printing cost that comes off of that. And, you know, the cost of the book is oftentimes for printing is in the neighborhood of $13, $14 because of how big the book is and the size of it and things like that. Those all play into it. So everything was a little bit more this year, and that's where it's at. And then by the time it's all said and done, I think I make a little less than $1 on the wholesale end of things, you know. So you understand why writing is such a passion. Like, I do this for the love of it, but I feel like it's really, really important for this work to get out there to more people. And, you know, I wanted to share that explanation because I feel like a lot of people don't understand. They think, you know, oh, you're charging X amount for a book, you're making all this money off of it. It's like, well, not really. And then even once the money comes through, you know, it's like 3 months before they pay you. So anyways, I love what I do, and I just feel like it's so important to get this work into a bigger scale right now. I feel like it's really important to get it to where it's available to the brick and mortar stores. So if you have a favorite retail store, favorite spiritual store, favorite store that just you know, you like to do business with, then go in and ask them to carry the book. It should be coming available to them this week. Like I said, I'm just finishing up a couple of processes. It takes a couple of days for it to go through the processing phases. So hopefully by the end of this week, hopefully actually in a couple of days, for those that are just want to get it through Amazon, you'll be able to do that in a couple of days. So by the way, this is last year's book, the 2020 book. And this design right here, you'll see that even on the ebook version. And if you haven't worked with this book before, you may want to go in and check it out. And what I do is the ebook version is available for free through Smashwords. Only through Smashwords is it available for free. And you can go ahead and, you know, in past copies, I oftentimes don't really make anything in the expiring years because I choose to do that. I feel like it's important for people to experience the work. I feel like it's important for them to get a taste of what it's like to work with the codes and to get that understanding. So that is just part of how I choose to do things. That feels in integrity with me. That feels like, to me, the best way for somebody to know whether they want something is to experience it firsthand. So at least through the ebook, even though it's not the same as holding the actual book, you can at least get an idea for the content that is in there. So I just want to put that out there. I'm very excited to share that the 2021 book should be available within a week or less. And, you know, so watch for that. I'll be posting on social media about it. I'll be putting it up on the website, compassioncodes.com. Now, let's get into the topic because I don't want to waste a lot of time here, but I know a lot of people have been waiting, a lot of people have been asking, which is why I wanted to address that first off. So this week, there's some really big things that came up with people around me and some things that I noticed in people, and I wanted to see, how does this play within the codes? How does this interact with what's happening? And it actually applies really, really well because, as you know, this time frame, if you have been working with the codes and you've got the book and things like that, you know that this has been a time to really kick out a lot of big projects. It's been a time to it's a time where we're moving more and more into needing to align with spirit. We're needing to take a look at what is happening and really looking at where our addictions are and releasing the addictions. And as we know, that can be anything. It could be to people, it could be to situations, it could be, we like to think we have healthy addictions, but, truly any kind of addiction at all is separating us from home, and it's separating us from wisdom, and it's holding us back from victory. And the reason for that is because it is outside of ourselves. So it's important that we're not addicted to things, because it shakes everything up. Whenever we have an addiction, if we're addicted to something, it's breaking our trust. It's breaking our trust in ourselves, and it's breaking our trust in the divine. Now, that being said, of course, it's fine to go out and enjoy stuff, especially something healthy like body work or something like that. It's great to do that, and I think it's important to do that. And yet, at the same time, again, we want to make sure we're not crossing the line to an addiction to it, because that will block our victories, it will block our abundance energy, it will block our prosperity, it will put us in a position of neediness, and this starts to collapse our whole world. Now, part of how I came into this energy, and that's aspects we're dealing with the codes, and this world has so much programming for us that we've kind of gotten turned around, and we tend to get addictions to things, especially that are separating us. And what I find with divine presence, divine alignment, I talk about that a lot in the codes, is that it is an aspect of, we've been programmed to be separated from that. And that alignment is something that is so enjoyable that you enjoy every minute so much, but you're never addicted to it. You're in appreciation instead of addiction. And there is a difference. And there are points in our spiritual path where we can become addicted to that feeling good energy. And then we can actually, when we hit that addiction space, we can actually trigger other aspects of unworthiness, and we can trigger aspects of shifting it from being actually fully enjoyable to being something that we become more fanatic about. So we start to actually lose the connection, even in the addiction, even when it's to so-called spiritual alignment. And I think most people will go through that point on their path where they're so addicted to it that they're so addicted to the pieces of things or the tools or these different aspects. So definitely something that we want to pay attention to. Now, part of what brought this up is because one of the things that I saw happening, and it's very easy in a time where there's so much turmoil and trauma going on and people are stressed and they're frustrated and these different emotions are coming up, is blame. Blame starts happening, and when we get into this blame space, and I have some notes down here, so I'm trying to kind of, but I can't see them all. I may have to put my glasses on at some point. But the blame aspect starts coming up, and we notice it in subtle ways. We start saying things like, this is blocking me. that is preventing me from doing something. This is, what I want to say, this is preventing me. That person is interfering with my ability to do something. And first of all, this isn't actually true, for one. You know, what we have happening there is, yes, we may have some challenges going on. There may be people that are interfering with things. And even when we have good intentions, we don't want to be interfering with people's processes. We can make ourselves open, we can make ourselves available, we can make suggestions, but we want to be very, very careful about interfering, because when we interfere, we could think we're doing something good, and we could actually be sending somebody into something that's not good for them. So we have to be careful. But when we get into this space where we're saying that's blocking me, that's preventing me, and we forget how powerful our words are, how powerful our thoughts are. And when this comes up, we start sending ourselves down those negative spirals, right? We start sending ourselves down those paths that are saying, that there's unfavorable things. And I'm sorry, I'm taking a little bit of a block here. I'm just going to make a shift, and I'm sorry to do this to everybody, but I'm going to make a little shift because I see something happening and it's not good. And I don't want to cut out right in the middle of this video while I'm kind of on a roll. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change, and I'm going to get, just bear with me, I'm going to get myself plugged in, if I can here. There we go. Get myself plugged in, and then I won't have to worry about different pieces. Let me see what I can do here. Hang on, everybody. Let's see if this will work. If I sit down here. Almost. Almost there. I just got to find another little aspect here to prop this up. We're going to find the right thing here one way or another. There we go. So, sorry, not as pretty of the scenery, but but it works. So when we have this happening, and I got to get back into my train of thought here. Let me just, there we go. So when we start this, we start down this blame path, that process, and we run into challenges of getting outside of ourselves, creating blocks for ourselves, creating issues for ourselves. And what we're actually doing in this process is projecting. So when we start blaming other things for life not being the way we want, and certainly there's no doubt that, for example, somebody creating a lot of trauma and drama in our life, or being on the attack on us, or having to deal with psychological attacks or spiritual attacks or these sorts of things, really these are signs that we are allowing outer influences to have an impact on our life. And when we get into projecting, we're actually magnifying the issue. So when we start saying, that's doing it to me, we're magnifying that issue in our life instead of coming back inward and saying, oh, okay, wait a second, this is a sign that I need to come more inward. I need to realize that somewhere something I'm projecting. So I need to come back into this alignment. I need to stop everything. I need to sit still for a few minutes or whatever it is, maybe a few days. Sometimes I feel like it's a few weeks in my case. And to stop putting my attention on these other things, to stop doing that. And of course, this is a cycle, and this is, we see this in several areas of our life, whether we talk, media, relationships, or whatever it is. Oftentimes somebody has an issue, they start attacking somebody else, and the person being attacked then starts focusing on the attack. So they're projecting, because they're being attacked, they're projecting things not working in their life from the attacks. And then you've got those that are making the attacks are projecting onto others issues so that they don't have to deal with their own issues. So you see how it kind of creates this really nasty cycle of things. It creates this really nasty pattern of things to start coming about. So we have to be very, very careful of that outward projection. Yes, they are creating challenges. Yes, they are creating interferences for us. Yes, they are creating turbulence for us. But when it comes down to it, we have to choose the space that we're going to be in. So we have to stop and choose, am I going to be angry over this? Am I going to be upset over this? Am I going to be, let this stop me? Because, it's really kind of that thing. It's like that person, it's like you're all set to do something, and then somebody comes up and says, oh, you'll never be able to do that. You can't do that. Well, if you accept what they're telling you, then you're not going to be able to do it. But if you say, you know what, I'm not going to let that person's negativity stop me from doing what's right for me, from doing what I need to do for myself, from pursuing a dream that I have, from pursuing something that I know is beneficial to give to this world. So we have to make that choice. And what happens in this whole projecting piece, when we start projecting, is that we believe that some piece of ourself is being taken away from us. We believe that our freedom is removed. We believe that we are restricted in this process. And again, once we start to go down that belief, that's a bunch of lies. Because we aren't. Yes, we have challenges. Yes, we have to stop and decide, is this worth it for me to keep going, to pursue, to find another way around this challenge or this obstacle? Maybe it's coming up saying, hey, I need to clear this out before I move forward. Maybe that's part of the obstacle coming up. Maybe there's something in this that you need to get, and you may not see it right now, but you'll understand it later. It's like when I was going through the publishing process and I was just hitting wall after wall after wall, part because it was a new system and I didn't understand the system and I didn't know how it would work. And so I was working very blindly in a lot of ways and having to work very intuitively in a lot of ways. And after so many challenges and so many blocks along the way for getting part of the things out, I had to stop and say, okay, that's it. I'm scrapping everything again. And then I come back around and go, okay, obviously what I'm going to need to do is create this myself, create that myself, and stop using these tools that other people, that the systems were giving me. And when I did that, of course, I actually ended up having some really great benefits because now everything's consistent. It will look the same in the different areas that it's presented. And it won't have variances and things, which is great. That's a huge asset in things. The book should pretty much be the same in things, with small subtleties like maybe the weight of the paper might be different in one area than another area, things like that. But, it should be the same basically. And moving forward, I had to stop and think to myself, this was so challenging for me to go through, but At the same time, there must be a reason that I needed to know those things. I may not understand what that is now, but maybe 6 months down the line or next year when I get ready to do something, that's going to be like, yep, got it. I know how to do this. So some reason I'm getting that. I needed to go through that so that I would learn certain things that I didn't know that I needed to learn, so that I will have that knowledge and the tools that I needed to do that in my pocket, ready to go when things come up. And that's kind of the position I've gotten to, where I look at it that way. When I hit these challenges, I don't understand why, but hey, there's a reason why I needed this information, and somewhere that's going to be valuable and useful to me later on. So that projecting piece, we really want to take a look and say, we've got to choose. We've got to choose to what space we're going to be in. We have to choose alignment with God, the divine presence energy. We've got to choose how we are going to feel, how we are going to be, if we're going to be in the turmoil or not be in the turmoil, so that no matter what they are doing, no matter what is coming up, no matter what the challenges are, it's still a choice whether we are in that or not. So you realize that once you start projecting, you're taking your own freedom away. When you're in that blame space and you're projecting, you're taking your own freedom away. And what you want to do is come back into your freedom. The only place that you can get your freedom is inside of yourself. And this is why choice is so important in our world, why freedom is so important in our world, because it is directly connected to divine connection. It is directly connected to being able to have power and influence over our life, regardless of whatever else gets set down in the world. There's one thing that no matter what is implemented in the 3D world that cannot be taken from you, and that's choice. Sometimes we perceive we don't have choice, but the choice of how you are feeling, the choice of what you allow yourself to feel is always yours. You've heard about it numerous times, I'm sure, where there are many examples out there, people who were in huge turmoil and chaos and felt a great amount of peace. But they felt that peace because they went within and they stopped focusing on all the turmoil that was going on. They stopped focusing on the drama that was going on. So, in reality, what we are doing when we get into these spaces of blaming is we are allowing ourselves to feel and be in the trauma and the drama. Now, that doesn't mean you don't just you don't pretend it doesn't exist, because it does exist. It just may not exist in the way that you think it does. Okay? Many things like that happen in this world where we make them bigger than they are. We make the drama bigger than it needs to be on something. And so we want to come back to this saying, am I going to be in this drama? Am I going to be in these challenges? Am I going to be in this reaction? Or am I going to choose something else for myself? So we want to be able to feel the peace. And feeling the peace does not mean that you pretend something doesn't exist, or it isn't there, or it isn't happening. It simply means that you're aware of what's happening, you're acting on what's happening instead of reacting, and you're taking command of the situation in a way that is holding you in alignment. Because the reality and the truth is that the only way through those challenges is going to be in a divine alignment. It's going to be hand in hand with God energy. It is going to be staying in that space. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that you ignore the feelings or the emotions that are coming up. You acknowledge them, but then if we don't acknowledge them, if we try to resist them, or we get wrapped up in them, then we wrap ourselves into the 3D world. We wrap ourselves into the trauma. We lock ourselves into that, which just cascades into multiple challenges. But when we stop and we consciously make a choice and we say, nope, going to choose something else. I'm going to choose to be in peace in the situation because that's going to give me a clear head to see what's really happening. That's going to allow me to be able to actually take action. And that means that even if I don't like what's happening, and I can acknowledge, I don't like what's happening. I don't like the way this person's approaching me. I don't like this. Okay, well, now you're starting to take ownership of the situation. It's about, you're removing the attack. You're removing the competition. You're removing the argument in things. You're removing the reaction of it. And you're taking accountability, and you're coming in and you're saying, now it's time to resolve this. So what am I going to do? I don't like that this is happening, but what am I going to do? Am I going to live my life this way in the drama, or am I going to live my life this way in the peace? Am I going to let them influence what I believe I can do, or am I going to believe there's another way that I haven't found or looked at yet? So the reality of things is oftentimes very different than what we see or what our human self is picking up on. So in the midst of that reality, we are acknowledging when we step into this that yes, others are creating challenges, situations are creating challenges, but we are creating our misery. So we're taking accountable for what is our peace in things. And we're saying, I have control over my emotions. I have control over how I feel in things and how I choose to be. And they may be triggering a reaction, but I don't have to live or exist in that reaction. And let me tell you something about the codes of reaction. In the codes of reaction, excuse me, what we find is reaction is actually a block in our journey that is shaking up our trust, showing us where we're not making wise decisions. So that may be holding somebody in our life, holding a situation in our life that we need to get rid of. And it comes to us in the form of what appears to be bad luck and a block in us being able to succeed in some way. And it is a call for us to get still and to realign with our own prosperity energy and to really look at what's needed. Not just what's comfortable to do, not just what we like or don't like, but what is actually needed to do and to deal with that. That's what a reaction is about, and it throws us into a competition energy pattern. And so once we're in reaction, we need to identify that and say, okay, I'm in reaction, which means I'm in competition with this situation, this person, this whatever it is, this block, this obstacle, this challenge. And why am I in competition? Because I'm feeling a conflict in some way between my soul self and my human self, between my views and their views. There's something there that isn't lining up, and that's where you have to do that deeper work and pull it out, figure it out, what it is. I'm living somehow, maybe in a way, or again, simply the fact that I don't like what's happening. Somebody's throwing something at me that I don't like, and that's creating competition because now I'm trying to fight for something, and it's very fine lines. You know, somebody asked me recently, where is that difference between fighting for something and standing up for something? And when you're in fight, and this is going to be the short, simple version of my answer, when you're in fight, you are you're trying to prove something is right. You're trying to get somebody to conform to your way of thinking instead of leaving it open. When you're standing up for something, you're not forcing your views on somebody else. You're not accusing them of being wrong. You're simply saying, this is what I'm going to stand in. So, you know, I could sit there and say, well, I'm going to fight you over this law, or I'm going to fight you over a mask issue, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. And, you know, I'm going to fight you over these things. Or I can simply say, you know what, this is where I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand here. You don't have to like what my choice is. I don't have to like what your choice is, but I'm going to take a stand and do this because this is what's best for me. And that's not about being selfish. It's not about not caring about other people. It is about honoring the self. And so here again, you know, we wanna look at what's coming out of us. Look at the opportunities. Tune into the opportunities. When we go inward, we think of the opportunities. We get out of the reaction of things. And when we are reacting, we also know that we can be operating from a lot of different things, and that could take me a lot of time to get into. But what you want to, again, just stay focused on and say, where am I putting the blame on something outside of myself? What part of this am I needing to take accountability for? Okay, my emotions. My emotions is something that I can always be accountable for. That is always mine, how I'm feeling about something. And, you know, it's very interesting because somebody said to me recently, they said that, you know, your work lately seems to be a certain way. Now, I certainly could have gone into battle with that person, proven my point and everything, but then I would be in that battle and competition energy. I had to take a stand and say, I'm choosing to block this person, not because I don't like what they're saying, but because I'm unwilling to allow certain things in my life. When I say that, it's not a blocking of an openness. It's about taking a stand for how I'm going to be treated as a person, as an individual. And I had already been down this road with this person, already tried the talking routes, already tried some other things with them. And the only thing that had changed was their perception, because they had seen some other things that I had posted, and that did not agree with their point of view. And because it didn't agree with their point of view, all of a sudden they thought they were projecting it onto everything that I did, which the work hadn't changed. You know, the work was created before I was even aware of certain things in my life. So, you know, these are big things. And I want to touch on one more piece in regards to the addiction piece in this. And it came and hit me through a post that somebody shared on their timeline, and I won't mention who, because I want to respect that person's privacy. They'd like to have that respected, but they will know who they are because I know they watch the videos. And they had a meme that was out, and it showed a big giant mansion type of, it had two pictures on it, a big giant mansion, swimming pool, you know, large estate property, all well maintained, mowed lawn, the whole works. And it said, this is what life looks like when I'm asleep, or when I was asleep. And then it has another picture of this great little cabin with, you know, very simple out in the woods, and, you know, a little fire pit there. And it said, this is what it looks like when I'm awake. And so, not that the woods is everything, and not that, you know, that's where you have to live to be enlightened. That's not the case. You know, we all have different settings that we prefer to be in, but certainly there's a clarity in the woods, and it was about the simplicity and not needing this big, humongous, showy thing. And addictions are very much the same way. We become addicted to something oftentimes because we're told that that is what we should be striving for in the world, instead of really tuning in to ourselves. And, you know, when we're not aware, we're following what we're being programmed to believe, right? Through television shows and songs and celebrities and things like that, where, you know, they tout that kind of lifestyle as being so magnificent without ever, you know, considering how miserable oftentimes that lifestyle is. Does it make it wrong to have a mansion? No, it doesn't make it wrong to have a mansion. But when you look at the upkeep, when you look at the complication of that lifestyle, when you look at not really having a lot of privacy, and you look at there always being master-slave patterns involved in that, this really is nothing that is going to bring or provide a soul alignment. People that are in those lifestyles are rarely ever happy. They rarely, if it is, they might try to tell you that they are, but it's usually not. It's usually a very superficial aspect, and there's usually behind closed doors. Knowing a lot of people in those positions is not pleasant, and it's not good. So anyways, I know I've kind of thrown a lot of different thoughts at you this week, but again, take that time to consider what blame is about. Take that time to consider what addictions are about. Take that time to consider reactions and the projecting aspect. Because if we want to use projecting in its true sense, then that true sense is all about being strong in the self. It's all about realizing your own power and influence and using that in a positive, God-aligned way. And when we're in reaction, it's kind of like that message that comes up and says, okay, it's like the big red warning light. Okay, you've gone too far. You're too deep. You're too addicted to this situation. When we get into that blame space, and I didn't talk a lot about the codes on that, but blame is really about illusion. It's really kind of like a black magic sort of energy, and that's not to scare people, but that is an aspect of realizing that our creativity has been stunted. Our piece of ourself that is not thinking for itself, is not thinking outside of the box, is being stunted by the box, so to say. And so oftentimes blame is coming up when we are operating on a negative energy vibration, and we may not mean to, but again, it's an awareness to say, oh, wait, I need to stop and realize that I'm working within this negative illusion, or this illusion that is not taking me where I want to go. Let's say that. Versus being in a space of clarity and alignment. And so, we want to realize that, it's really about, the blame is really about the smooth talkers that we believe are getting away with something that is connected to taking away a piece of our freedom. So I think that's a pretty good summary, and I think that we'll bring that together. And when we go into reaction at the same time that we have blame, then we are working from deprivation. So we know that once we drop in that deprivation space, we got to stop and say, hey, this is taking away from me. This is no longer just a battle. This is taking away from me. It's taking away from other people. And when that's in motion, that's not going to be pleasant. That's going to be way less pleasant than anything I'm dealing with and things. So just some pieces to be aware of. I hope this has been a great video for you this month. I really wish the best for everybody, and let's just take a moment and let's just kind of breathe into that. Breathe into this information that we've taken in, and tune in for a second and say, where am I letting other things restrict me in my life? Where am I accusing people, places, and situations? And let's take a moment and say, where can I shift, or how can I shift? What is the space that I want to be in? And what do I need to be doing to nourish that emotion? That emotion of peace, that emotion of joy, that emotion of happiness. And am I willing to accept that it's okay for somebody else to have their opinion, just as it's okay to accept that I can have my opinion? And to realize that there is always a way around things. There is always a way through things, and that is alignment. So if I'm willing to get still with this situation, if I'm willing to open up, if I'm willing to choose my emotion that is soul-based, then I know that the rest of the doors will be open if I take actions that are in alignment with that. So don't forget, set those boundaries. If somebody is crossing their boundaries with you, I've talked about this in other videos recently, lay them down. And I look forward to next month to holding up the new book, the 2021 book for you. And I just really want to thank everybody for your love and your support and seeing me through all of these things. It means so much to me when somebody takes something and they share what I posted, when it's resonated with them enough, and when you are getting enough out of the work that you want to share it with somebody else because you want to give other people that opportunity as well. You know, don't underestimate the power of sharing. Yes, it's nice to have the money. Yes, it's nice to have the donations. But the real importance, and especially in times like this in our world, is to let this information get out there. You know, I tell people all the time, think of even one person you can give the book to this year. You know, one person, and they don't have to be highly spiritual, because the book works on every aspect of where somebody is on their path. Even people who aren't really per se spiritual, but they like to open their mind up a little bit. They like to think about things. They like to work on things for themselves. It can be very, very valuable for that. And you know, every year maybe just gift it to a different person. Get a copy for yourself and then gift it to another person. And they make fantastic gifts for people. And the real gift is not just a book, it's the transformation that somebody makes. It's the openings that are created for them. It's the opportunities that you're giving. It's an abundance, it's spirit, it's, again, the opportunities for joy, for happiness, for these things that are of real and true value in this world and really help us. And that's a gift you can never go wrong with, in my book. In my book, I didn't mean that pun, but in my book, yep, that's that. So anyways, take care, everybody, and I will see you next month, and looking forward to everything then.